Hey, what's happening, Ward Wrestling Live? We're here. We're back. Good morning. And we have another amazing wrestling mind in our country. It's Coach Joe Uccellini up in Troy, New York. He's the U.S. senior. He was a U.S. senior Greco All-American. He's the New York USAW coach. He is Suples Pro. Hey, I didn't fuck it up. Suples Pro Trainer. And he is the owner and founder of Curby Training Center up in New York. And he's with us today. Coach Joe, what's up, man? Thank you so much for coming on. It's an absolute honor to have you.
Thanks for having me on. Give me a chance to talk about some Greco-Roman.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I know when I had Dennis on over in where's he, in Wisconsin or something. He was like, "You should get more Greco on." I'm like, "I don't know anybody Greco. You have to send them to me. I don't know anybody folk style, freestyle. I just reach out and ask." So, but it's been good because I've gotten a few, some pretty good Greco guys on, and there's a guy I had on, Terry Styles, down in Georgia, in Betterman. Yeah, so it's been fun. I've gotten a few. I've gotten the assistant coach up at Oregon State now. He's a Greco guy. Yeah, Nate Angle, right? Yeah. So he's a Florida dude too. So that was cool. But anyway, man, first of all, Coach, I know you mentioned I had asked you about your spot there, man. A beautiful place. Just finally made the transition from downtown Troy into a huge space there. So real cool. I mean, if anybody, I believe it's kirbytraining.com, right?
kirbytrainingcenter.com. Yep.
kirbytrainingcenter.com. Check it out. A lot of cool stuff on there. You'll really be surprised at the website. It's pretty neat. But man, I know New York was kind of the epicenter initially of this COVID. I know you're not down by the city, but you're only a few hours north of it, right?
Yeah.
But what effects has it had on your club this summer, and are you starting to be able to trickle some kids in and do some stuff again?
Yeah. So we're functioning as New York City, basically. We have a fraction of the cases, and by a fraction, I mean like really barely any. It's obviously a dangerous virus, but it's put us in a situation where we've had parents that really want to train, and then we've had some parents that are they want to distance themselves as much as possible. So I have some dummies here. I went and called Yvonne and I said, "Listen, I think we're going to be in a situation where we're allowed to practice, but we're not allowed to have partners." And so we bought another 15 dummies, and we have almost 30 dummies, and we're running non-contact practices. And there's a blessing in there. We've been able to slow down the techniques for the kids, and get them in here, but there's still that cautionary clientele that hasn't come back since March 15th.
Yeah. So how's that work? I see other people like out in Vegas. I see Chase Pammy doing some dummy stuff, and I see people around the country just based on posts. How does it work? I mean, because obviously wrestling, there's no way around it. It's a contact sport, right? But how has it? I always ask the coaches this. Maybe that makes sense. Like, how much better of a coach will you be technique-wise through the other side of COVID? Because haven't you had to learn how to adjust in ways you never had to before?
Yeah, I mean, I've had to be the sit down and the chair coach. That's like one of the things I think if you hear from parents is that the coaching staff here, we're like walking around everywhere and we're making sure everyone's getting it. And if we had a plan to hit 2 moves during the day, but we're still on the 1, we want to make sure everybody gets it. So we're very hands-on, and we're not able to do that right now. But with the dummies, I find that there's a blessing to dummies. So like we teach double dummies, obviously throws, but how violent you're supposed to be finishing double legs in matches. It's hard to have partners that allow you to like just spear them into the mat, Berg style, right? Like no one's going to let you do that. But if you practice enough reps, thousands and thousands of reps on the dummy, when you're on the mat, you may not even, it just may take off. Your brain just functions, right? You got that instinct now. So some of these kids are like, wow, like I've gotten more explosive. And they were just like, there's no way I can get better wrestling a dummy. I have dummies behind me, so I'm pointing. But like, there's no way I'm going to get better on a dummy. Like, that's not what I've learned. Like, I thought you have to go live and drill and that's it. But dummies are a tool that Yvonne Ivanoff invented from Suples. And they're my favorite training tool. I mean, senior athletes come in here and train, and they're on the dummies right away. You know, if the young kids could see them go after it, which some of them, that's what I'm trying to create, that atmosphere. Like, oh, wait, that guy's doing it? All right, now it's cool. I'll use the dummies.
Yeah, I bet you all these people using these dummies are gonna create, it's gonna teach these kids how to practice better at home too. When they're not with you, whether it's with a dummy or with a pillow or their little brother.
Yeah, so we focus on the dance steps of it all. Every back step throw has the same steps, whether you hit an arm throw, hip toss, or headlock. So the kids we do it in steps, and they master their steps. But I'm like, guys, this is just a dance class, you know, and you show dance class, but this is a little more violent, so it serves another purpose. If you see a lot of European wrestlers, they do dance celebrations after. Most of them can dance their culture dance that they have, and these throws are that. It's not about how mean you want to be. It's about how good your footwork is. And so we've sold probably like 12 to 15 dummies to kids to bring. They just go buy them and they have them at home now. Mainly our youth kids.
You're a Suples training center, so you have, obviously people can buy through the site through you, buy right from you. You have product available to them.
Yeah. We have some available, and then otherwise Suples is so great. They can get that in like a day and a half to whoever it needs to be at if they have to ship it. So
that's great, because those things are expensive. And
yep.
So if there's a coach in town willing to help and provide you access to those things, that's a bonus, because not everybody can spend the money it costs to get one, right? So
I'm finding schools. I think there's like 4 schools in our area that have outfitted their high school wrestling facilities with our same stuff that we have. They didn't know about it. They kind of watched us go for a year. They're like, wait, Joe, like, what do you think would be the best for our room? And the kids love it. It's like an alternative, like they're working their butt off, but it's not like running steps and the same push-ups. Like there's other ways to drill strength endurance through Suples equipment.
yeah,
That's not like, it's not the same routine. So they're tricked into working, but they feel like they're playing.
yeah, it's cool. All these all these games that have come out like you see them playing spike ball, or you see them playing with the dummies with each other, or you see them with those attack band things to help them with their ankles, or foot taps, or whatever they call them. It's pretty fun. But I know you said so Curby Training, man, where did the vision come from? I know initially you opened up in downtown. You mentioned to me that you and your wife, who also is involved with Collar City Wellness Center, but you guys grew to capacity where people just couldn't get in. You were having to do waves of practices, which probably wasn't effective, and you guys decided to grow. But man, tell us about Curby Training Center, where it came from, where the vision was, the history, the purpose. What your culture is up there in the mountains.
Yeah, so I went to Northern Michigan University from 2002 to 2005. Most of my career was on the shelf. I had a shoulder labrum tear, and I would sublux if I sneeze. Like, I had surgery, and then within like 8 months, I wrestled with Cheney Haight. He's not going to like that I plugged him for this. But he body locked me, and my shoulder came back out, and it was like the first practice back. And I realized I wasn't ready to wrestle an Olympic level guy right away, but it really put a damper on my career. And so Cheney was my roommate, and Jake Curby was my roommate. Daryl Spackman was my roommate. And Jake was one of my practice partners, and we lived together for 4 years. I graduated. Those guys moved on to Idaho with Ivan Ivanoff. And in 2010, I got a call that Jake passed away from an epileptic seizure. I got a call from my brother. Now he's my brother-in-law, and it was one of the worst calls you could ever get. And did the services, and I'm just thinking, how do I keep this name alive? And I, everything from just like pictures in my house to I got a tattoo. And then I start at a club with my really good friend Van Fraunhofer called Fraunhofer Wrestling Club, and we were working out of a school, and his time started to get limited, and my time, I was able to get more time to coach, and I started taking over more of the responsibilities. And I just asked Van, I said, Van, do you mind if I call this Curby for Curby Freestyle Wrestling Club? And he goes, no, absolutely. That's fantastic. He was like super supportive. And so we started that. Actually, we started at my house. I wasn't collecting any money, but when I built my home, right after we put the foundation, before we put the house on, we had old Columbia University mats, and we rolled them into my house. Just dumped 3 huge mats in, and I have a 2,000 square foot basement, wide open. We designed the house so I could train, because I'm like, I met my wife, right, and I was already competing again, so that's why I knew I was going to still train. So after I took my little hiatus, we'll get into how my wife's wellness center gets in a second, but the club started in the basement of my house, and I was working with some really good kids in the area, and those 10 kids helped us get a name. And then my wife and I decided she wanted to go on her own, I want to go on my own. I'm like, your massage, she was a massage therapist, I'm like, you just help me wrestle.
Yeah.
I'm competing now. I think we could have this business where you're teaching athletes how to recover properly, because us coaches, we just know how to beat them up, and we know how to get them training. And there's some warning signs for ligament damage coming if we don't pay attention. And anytime a kid might have an ailment, depending on where it is, you may be able to intervene and help that before we have to get to a surgery type situation. And so we started that business in 2014, and we had 20 kids, and then we just doubled each year. And we're at 250 right now, and we take every age group, anybody that wants to wrestle, they just have to go through USA Wrestling's background check, safe sport, and things like that. So now here we are.
It's all on your website. It's easy access on his website. You'll see when you go to his website, it'll say Safe Sport up there. It'll say USA Wrestling up there. All you got to do is click that. It'll walk you right through everything, and you're in the room.
Yeah. So, and then we offer free trial for everybody that comes in. So we don't collect any money until the kid is begging their parents to come back. There's a culture here that, no one's forced to be here. If I see a kid, it looks like their parents made them come to practice, we pull them aside and just say, hey, what's going on? Right. Because we're teaching, and they're not kind of in that mode. They're just letting it go. It could be a relationship issue, honestly. But for the most part, everybody that's in here, it's the energy's insane every day.
That's all. Is that the bar and restaurant up over your shoulder there?
It's empty. There's nowhere to, that's our seating area. But yes, because of the pandemic, we had to just clear everything out.
That'd be good COVID seating up there. Throw some plexiglass up.
Yeah, so we actually have these markers 6 feet apart, all that stuff. Because this 21st, we're allowed to practice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we're allowed to practice. Our sports teams up here are allowed to practice the 21st. So we're geared up for that. We'll probably not do the non-contacts anymore. And hopefully,
Excitement's coming. Also, I was on your website, and I was looking around, and I saw this thing. It said CTC YouTube. So I clicked on it, and it took me to your YouTube page, and it's pretty badass. I mean, you've got all sorts of training videos there, all sorts of refresher videos, things that kids can do outside of the gym to keep themselves up, or even, they got caught in a move in a match and they're like, damn, how the hell did that happen? Right. And they can go back and learn about that move and learn how to defend it. So, talk about your YouTube training platform and how people can access it, and the positives to it and what you recommend through it.
Yeah. So the YouTube page, and I have one of my head freestyle coach, Lenny Baker's one of my partners on it, and we have kind of some fun with it. I hear in some, they're like, oh, it's funnier than like we just watched to see you guys mess with each other. But he's an NCAA champ at Brockport, and we have the same philosophy in sport, but we travel 2 different roads to get there. He's a shooter by trade, and I'm a counter scorer by trade. But everything that we do in our technique videos takes you to the same philosophy. Like one person's not saying, hey, it's healthy to wrestle on your knees, and the other one's saying never wrestle on your knees. That just confuses kids. But when we do these videos, they're usually right after we teach them in class. And then we tell the kids, hey, if you want to go reference back that video, the technique, we're breaking it down here. You have access to it. We were using TMAP at the time, and we were sending those videos out to the entire team as well. And it was just, if they wanted to look at, some people learn better watching videos. Some people learn better in doing it. Some people learn it by teaching it. So we just make that accessible to all those people that kind of want to see this move and how it's broken down.
That's pretty cool. And I think obviously we've seen more of that through the pandemic, because that was kind of the only way to coach the last few months. So you've seen some platforms kind of evolve, but this has been something you've been doing for a long time, even prior to this. So it's obviously built up to something it is now, and pretty cool to watch and look at. And I was wondering, are you strictly club coaching, travel team coaching, doing that? Are you involved in any high school program or youth program, or is it right now just club and travel?
So it's club and travel. We support the high school programs. So by that, what I mean is, actually, it's pretty funny. The coach, his name's Dennis Lane. He's a WWL coach, and he was one of the first coaches I approached, because I went back to my old stomping grounds. So I printed my first flyers. I'm like, I'm gonna go get some people for the club, and I go up to him, and he's like, nah, we don't do clubs here. Every time our kids go to clubs, they never want to wrestle in the fall, winter. And I was like, oh, but he's like, no, thanks. He's like, and he was really nice. He wasn't like a jerk to me. He's like, and so I was coach. I had a couple other schools that I was kind of like, they were like kind of giving me co-signs. They were like, hey, this club is going to be pretty good. And my other coach, Van Fraunhofer, he's an Olympic alternate. Everybody loved him and Lenny. So I was kind of like, I was surrounded by decent people enough to give me a chance. Year 2, he comes up to me. He's like, sounds like the kids like where they're wrestling. I'd like to bring some kids over. He's like, but I want all those kids to want to wrestle in the wintertime. I said, that's my job, man. Like, my job is that they get a full season. They love the sport even more. And then they can't wait to use what they learned in the spring, summer, and the next high school season.
Yeah. That's what I understand. Like, the summer is for the winter.
Yeah. And it's also for world teams. But the byproduct, that if you don't make a world team, now you're just elevated yourself for the high school season. So, the way I partner with high schools is I have some full teams here that are exclusive, but the just understanding is that during their season, their kids are theirs. So during the high school season, we don't drill or go live. It's not like, we're not trying to compete with the schools. We're doing film study. So we have a fraction of the kids, like in our spring class, we would have 80 to 100 in a practice. In the winter time, we have like 20 to 30. And those kids, I'll be like, hey, we got some film. Who else struggles with this position? And everyone's like, they all raise their hand. So we go over it. And basically everybody's struggling from very similar, not exactly the same. There might be a little tweak that we put in similar positions. It's getting out on bottom. It's breaking guy down on top. It's, it's getting stuck underneath in a shot. It's all the same recycled stuff. And as our juniors and seniors, and they're starting to get close to states and qualifying, as they pick it up and then leave, these younger kids were going through the same film study just a year later with them. But we have an understanding with the coaches. The kids, I explained to the kids that you trust your high school, they're great coaches. You trust your coaches, and then we're just film people. You do what you're coached. My dad was my high school coach, and it's one of the things he taught me was no matter who your coach is, you got to trust your coach. And
you had mentioned another one of your coaches is Florida's own Sean Sheldon down there at SWAT down in South Florida. One of the coaches at American Heritage, and it's pretty cool. I mean, a major Greco guy there, right?
Yeah, and so that actually is another. So Yvonne, I got like an Yvonne Curby, type of aspect to this club, and then we have our club that I grew up in was called Atwa, and so we're using the Atwa here. And Sean, before we would go to practice, when we would show up to the it was a SUNY Albany facility, all the college guys at SUNY Albany were they were already wrestling, and they were all, so when their NCAA season was done, they were full transition to Greco. Now he had 5 Olympians in Albany between I think it was 84 to 88, and we're watching Olympic level athletes right before we practice. And Sean Sheldon was one of them. Sean Sheldon was my brother's main partner. My brother started in 9th grade, and he was a 5-time All-American, and Sean Sheldon's a part of that. And then the Saris, Ike Anderson, and I basically got to learn from these guys, and I kind of want to create the same thing here. So I have senior athletes come in here and train. I coach them, and I do it in front of the kids so the kids can see it's the same stuff that they're learning, and then they can see the next level if they choose Greco or freestyle or folk style after that. Wow, they're doing the same stuff that we're doing. It's not just
Yeah, they're not getting on their head. They're actually learning how to use their upper body and do things. Yeah, I've heard. I have never met Sean Sheldon personally, but I've heard amazing things about him. I've heard, he's a great coach. I've heard obviously all the Greco guys speak highly of him. So, maybe one day we'll cross paths and I'll get to see him. But yeah, I mean, it seems like he's doing big things down there at SWAT in South Florida. So it's cool. But speaking of that, I know that obviously Greco has been a big part of who you are and who you became and your kind of wrestling pattern. And I know it kind of got more prevalent because you were in a car accident, was it? And you had to kind of really learn how to use your upper body more, right?
Yeah. So I got hit by a car. I mean.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, hit by a car is even.
Yeah. I was crossing a main highway, and I got hit about 40 miles an hour. I went flying, broke both my legs. I was in a wheelchair for 4 months. I already had 2 years of Greco experience. And I don't like even talking like Greco is different than freestyle and folk style, because it is in rules and things that you're allowed to do. But the skill sets are transferable, right? And so 2-on-1s and underhooks work in freestyle and they work in folk style. And my legs, if you touched them, I had such tissue damage that if you knew that there's a secret spot on my left shin that you touched it, I was down. Like you could pin me right there. I could be up 14-0. You touch it, I'm like out.
Sucking your thumb and crying.
Yeah. I was like, oh, please, no more tap out, right? And I learned to keep people off my legs. So my sprawl was a necessity, not like, oh, we have to do sprawls again. Like it was something that I focused on. But the sprawl wasn't like traditional where I'm on my thighs and my knees. My sprawl is, my feet are just coming back a little bit, but my hips and underhooks they're coming up underneath. So I'm catching a lot of underhooks, then hitting snap downs. And I fell in love with that style because I felt like I could stop anyone's shot. And that's kind of what we were taught as wrestlers, is that you need to have one or two moves that you can hit on anybody from the feet, from top, from bottom. You need those scoring positions that you can do to anybody, but you need to stop everything.
Right.
So,
and how much did that help you in folk style?
Oh, it was incredible. I probably took a handful of shots in my high school career. I'm not a state champ, but the guys that I was going with, Greg Parker, who's an NCAA finalist, Chris Fraunhofer, who's a 2-time section champ. These are really good guys that we were all at what teammates too. There was no wild card. It was only one division, and I never got out, but I know what I'm capable. I know what we can do in folk style. And those guys had the same. I don't know if you watch Greg Parker's NCAA run, but it's right before Cale Sanderson. It's at the Times Union Center. He got taken down every match and then got reversals. He's a counter wrestler, and he ended up in the NCAA finals because of it. He was incredible. There's the Greco aspect to me was it's control. You get an underhook, it's control. You get 2-on-1, it's control. And you can slow great athletes down if you have control. Working from space, the best athlete typically wins. All things considered equal, the best athlete wins. A 2-on-1 allows somebody who might have inferior athletic skills to really control the pace and control the scoring outcomes. But you have to be willing to be close, which means you could get thrown on your learning curve. People don't really want to get close. They want to be close to the earth. They don't want to get elevated. So we start our youth off on the dummies, but we start them with Greco so that by the time they're in 7th and 8th grade, that doesn't even affect them. They're comfortable in every position.
If you talk to the refs, their favorite matches to ref is Greco, because they want to see the throws. They're like, man, to be close up and see somebody get tossed, it's
I mean, women's Greco would be the actual best.
Yeah. Speaking of women, that's the fight, right? That's the argument. They want Greco to be in their sport, but first of all, New York is a state right now that is pushing hard to sanction it, right? It's one of the states there's been 28 that have said yes already. I see the push by Wrestle Like a Girl and how she wrestles. But you've got some hammers in your room. I mean, I've seen your website. I've read about them. I see what you're doing with these girls, and they're ending up fed into the high school programs and standing on top of the podium. I mean, how important is women's wrestling for New York wrestling?
I mean, I think it's important for New York. We just got to wake up. Like, it's got to be done. It should be done yesterday. It's a no-brainer. Christy Davis, she's one of the most decorated women's wrestlers in U.S. history. And she was my teammate at Atwa. And Joe DeMio treated everybody everyone got treated the same, practices were the same. And she was a judo. I'm not sure if she was a national champ that came over, but what a partner, what a competitor, what a teammate. And so that's the culture I grew up in. So when people are like, I want to wrestle, like my daughter's learning how to wrestle right now. She's 5. When people are coming in the room and they're like, I want to wrestle, they're learning. We're doing the same thing. Yeah, you're gonna learn Greco, you're gonna learn freestyle, you're gonna learn folk, you're gonna learn all the skill sets. Not only do they embrace it, they're the ones who want to take the biggest risk. Throw the highest. It's fun to coach girls wrestling. There's some components that I'm definitely, I'm not a woman, so there's a component that where I'm like, actually, I just reach out to resources. I'm saying, hey, I'm struggling here. I don't want to like lose this wrestler, or this wrestler isn't responsive. But it's typically because I don't understand, right? And so my job is to figure out and understand, or recruit. I have a women's coach now here, Amy Golding. She was a world.
I was just going to say, I saw where you have a few women that are in the room with you.
Yep. So she's coaching Laura White, who started with me when she was in college. She's one of our coaches. And, you know, a day where I'll be like, hey, you're wrestling with this person. And they're like, nah, yeah, I don't know. And then Laura will come over, or Amy, and they're like, yeah, we're in. So it's like, the girls are great. We just need to give more resources. That's events. You know, not every event needs to travel halfway across the country. We're doing it within our state. A lot of our off-season tournaments have girls divisions, freestyle and Greco. And, you know, the sanctioned New York thing would be a huge plus for us. There are some great leaders in this state. You know, the Macalusos, the Lewandowskis, Beat the Streets, New York City.
Yeah, and didn't I know Jackie Davis just moved down to Maryland, but
Good friend. Fantastic.
He was big into getting that big, what's it, the #1 women's wrestling tournament in the world out in Manhattan, right?
Yeah, the Gotham City tournament. That's a great tournament. And so, and Jackie was great because she would invite us out to do camps to teach the girls Greco. Right? Like, imagine getting invited to a camp. They could have anybody they want. And they're like, no, they really like to learn how to do underhooks, 2-on-1s, and throw. They thought that was a really fun camp. And so I was doing that every year when she was in the city, and even when she was in Providence and Beat the Streets, Boston. So when people are like, hey, what you guys taught, the kids really loved, that's kind of why we're doing it. And she's been great. She's a super supportive coach to this type of movement. So I host a tournament called Headlocks on the Hudson, and we have a women's Greco division. And the referees don't have to say anything.
Really?
They don't have to be like action, or it's just straight Greco bombs everywhere. Like
Coach Crum says, hi, Joe, one of the great coaches I was ever associated with in New York.
Thanks, Coach.
It's pretty cool stuff there. Yeah, it's been, Jackie was by far one of the best interviews I've had. She was so cool, fun to talk with, so down to earth, very energetic. And it was an honor to get her on, her and I had Bior on from Boston Beat the Streets, and just really cool to get women of that level talking to me. I mean, I'm like, hey, this is cool. But that's cool. So are you still the head coach of the USAW team?
Yeah. So I run the men's State Fargo team. I was sharing that role with Chris Harrington. He's the director of state teams, men and women. So for I'm basically, once the off season starts, we're trying to get ready for the World Team Trials in Fargo. So all the tournaments that we build are towards that end game. And obviously the World Team Trials are prior. They're done by May. And then after that, we have our camp set up, and we're getting these kids ready for the nationals. So that's been my role for the last 4 or 5 years.
Nice.
And
not only can you wrestle in your room, but you can get a little wellness too, right? Don't you have a wellness center that's in your facility that's run by a lady you know well?
Yeah, so that's probably why we exist, and our mission statement hasn't had a change. Our mission statement is simple: it's work hard, have fun, don't quit. And I don't do dual teams either. I don't know if I told you that. I mean, I know we see a lot of dual teams. If our kids want to join one, I was like, go ahead.
We won't see you down at Disney?
Probably not. But any individual tournament, we travel. We try to bring 50 to 60 kids to an event. Like, I don't want to leave anyone home. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, you're paying for all this training, and then you didn't make a dual, and you're sitting home. That doesn't sit well with me as a coach. So we find as many individual events as possible. But there's more to be done. Like, doing duels, you can group more. And I just didn't get into it. But my wife and I, we met because my shoulder was bothering me. She was working at a wellness center somewhere else, and I was coaching at Hudson Valley. It's a community college, and I just wanted to wrestle, like not much. I just wanted to be able to like go a little bit. My shoulder was still tanking, and I saw her in first go. I went from like this range of motion all the way back over my head. I was like, what? I was like, all right. So I went to practice, but I didn't do much. And I was like, it didn't pop. That's cool. I went back a month later, and then she worked on some more. What's funny is she doesn't know anything about wrestling. I mean, even now she's like asking questions. I'm like, how long have we been together? Like, but she was breaking up my pec muscle and my lat muscle, just destroying it. She uses elbows and forearms, just like almost tears in my eyes. She's like, you probably do a lot of push-ups and pull-ups. I'm like, yeah, I do. She's like, well, they're pulling on the same shoulder ligament and making it unstable. And I was like, all right, that makes a lot of sense, but we got to see, like, as wrestling, you don't know wrestling, right? Like, but I go to practice and it stays in, and I put a full practice in. And I was like, all right. So I'm wrestling with these college guys, some state champs, some guy, you know, this is a pretty good open room. And I'm just probably from then on, I saw her for like 2 years. Every month, I started wrestling more, and then I ended up competing in the New York Athletic Club tournament. I wrestled Provisor there. Shoulder didn't come out. I mean, I wrestled Basic. All these guys, my shoulder's staying in.
So your last visit, you showed up with a ring?
Yeah, no. I did. I heard her say something like about her boyfriend and her breaking up. Yeah, I just kind of swooped. I just did a little swoop action move, a little duck under. And I was like, hey, you want to hang out? And she said, sure. And I wrestle all the time. That's all I do. You know? And she's like, that's great. You know, I like to ski and stuff. I'm like, no, I wrestle all the time. So we started dating, but I was like, she knew what I was like. I was competing, and she was making sure I was like ready to go for tournaments. And that component, I was training my butt off. That component was huge. So I wrestled my first time even All-American. I was 35 years old. It was the best I felt.
Wow.
And so we decided to put this place up in 2014, and she, you know, we're split mortgage. But the fact that I don't have to come up with the whole thing as a wrestling club it's huge for our system. And parents bring their kids to her. Parents go to her. Also, she has her own clientele. And then sometimes those clientele are like, hey, what's that thing you got over there? Can I bring my son or daughter over to wrestle? And it's just a really good system that we got together. Now, her wellness center, we have 2 more massage therapists now. We grew. We have a physical therapist / chiropractor. We're looking at an acupuncturist now. But this having that combined, you know, it's just really good for these kids. The kids work really hard, all of them. Even when it's tough to be a kid, right? You're asked to produce so much at such a young age that the body, unless they're sleeping and eating perfectly, their body needs a bigger recovery ratio. So we gear them that way. And if they're smiling, that's good. We know that their recovery and training ratio is 1-to-1.
So you almost got a physical therapist at every practice.
Yeah. I mean, when we built this, I'm looking at her side of the facility right now. There were 4 to enter in from this side, from the wrestling room right in. She's like, hell no. She's like, I want wrestlers just roaming in looking for like appointments. Like,
Yeah.
You just have to walk out our main door, walk through the parking lot, and like. Yeah. But now, if they're serious about it, they'll get treated. But she's like, I don't want smelly. It was awful for her. The smell and like it was just so hot. Her patrons come down, and I could just see the look on their face, like, oh boy. Oh yeah. Like she has to be good at what she does to get them to keep coming down those steps.
That's funny, man. Well, hey, man, this has been awesome. You know, let's do it again anytime, but let's wrap it up with my 10 questions. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Famous lunch or Gus's hot dogs?
I mean, I just switched to vegan. I watch Game Changers, and then like I still like to wrestle. But if I had to pick, I'd say Famous Lunch.
Peeble Island or Cohoes Falls?
Well, geez, I don't go to either, but People's Island.
The Memphis King or PJ's Barbecue? I know you just told me you went vegan, so.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just a Taco Bell guy. Like,
so none of these are going to work out for me.
no, it'll work. So I don't know either of those places. Where are they even located? Are you got me on like Clifton Park or something?
I don't know. It says Troy, New York. I looked up barbecue.
Yeah, they're real places.
I mean, you only have like 40,000 people there.
Yeah, it's true.
Prospect Park or North Pearl Street?
North Pearl used to be awesome. It used to be.
Not anymore.
I used to party on Pearl all the time, but Prospect Park's like it's outside. So,
Crave or Ted's Fish Fry?
Ted's Fish Fry.
You know that one. All right, good.
Yeah, no, I know they're very famous places that you're naming.
Yeah. Van Shake Island or Vander Hayden Preserve?
No.
DeFabio's or Giuseppe's?
Oh boy.
You know those.
You can't, like, if you put DeFazio's against the previous one or Giuseppe's, like, they would both win. Giuseppe's like a close family friend.
Well, yeah. So what I did was I look at these restaurants and I see like reviews, and I go, okay, well that only has 30. That has 30. Oh, yeah, these two have 600. Okay, I'm going to use those two.
DeFazio's famous around here. My wife loves DeFazio's. So Giuseppe, they do sponsor our tournament. So
and now your pizzas are with like mushrooms and olives and shit like that, right? No more pepperoni and.
I can't have it with cheese. I'm not eating it. I mean, I love it. It's just, I don't know. Something happened to me.
Oh, hey, Chad Laisley just jumped on. You know, he's working with Shakur Rashid.
Yeah.
And, he said, hey, man, would Joe be interested in booking a clinic with Shakur?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So Chad, hit him up. I got him through IG, but I'm sure you can hit him up through Facebook. Any way you can get him, Chad.
Yeah, we just working up here, and the kids loved him, and it was just a really cool camp. So, I mean, I haven't really been doing well with camps. I got Journeyman Wrestling up here. They're amazing with events. They do camps, and they have all these clinicians, and I just get like, you know, I like doing clinicians that are just, I know that would really be good for the culture of the room, and plus they know my style, so they love it.
Yeah, Shakur seems like a pretty cool dude, so I had him on.
I don't go out seeking much, but this seems like it could be awesome. Like I'm interested for sure.
Well, Chad, you guys get in touch. I got in touch with him through IG, but I'm sure you guys can figure it out.
IG, Facebook, anything be good.
677 Prime or Morton's. Again, steak.
What's the second one?
Prime or Morton's?
Prime.
Now you're doing like the Portobello medium rare.
I like meat. I just get like my eyes leak. Like I actually get like these terrible allergies, like awful.
So my son cooked some steaks last night. They were really good.
Yeah, I like a steak. Don't get me wrong. Like I just.
Mulberry Historic Site or the Industrial Gateway?
Wait, what was the first one?
Mulberry Historic Site. Oh no, Mulaney Historic Site or the Industrial Gateway. The Industrial Gateway looked pretty cool.
Yeah, that we'll go with the Industrial Gateway. I mean, I really like these questions. I got to do more research in my own city. That's pretty bad, man.
Yeah, I try to do some research and then put them together and figure it all out. I mean, the younger kids, like I have a college kid coming on next, so you know his stuff will be like ramen noodles or mac and cheese because you know he's not traveling out to these fancy dinners yet or these towns. He's wrestling, eating, hitting energy drinks, right?
I mean, like New York Mets, Yankees would always be good here. Giants, Jets, like those are good ones.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you're up at Albany. Mets, Yankees, Giants, Jets. What? Rangers, Devils, Knicks, stuff like that.
Celtics, Patriots, and Red Sox are huge here. So like I don't do any of those teams. Like I'm a New Yorker, but yeah. Hey, Chad just sent a friend request. What's up, Chad? There it is.
It's pretty cool. Bill Crum said, Sean Sheldon or Andy Saras?
Ugh. I had Andy Saras at a clinic last year for my Fargo team. He was incredible. Like he was awesome. Sean Sheldon directly impacted my brother and my training a little closer, but gosh, I don't know if I want to pick. Like
Bill just said, just kidding, both great, but yeah.
They're incredible. I mean, Ike Anderson was in there, Dale Oliver. Like I could just go all day long, but
yeah. Well, I told you when I was talking to Coach Dennis up there in Wisconsin, right? And I asked him about his Olympic silver medal, and still, I mean, how old is he now? He's probably 40 years gone from the Olympic medal. But when I asked him about it, his face got, I want to throw that thing away. I hate that damn thing. I should have beat that guy. I wanted to kill him when I saw him running around with that damn flag. I was like, I'm like, aren't you happy with it? He goes, yeah, it's pretty cool now, but I don't like it. I'm like you're a silver medalist, dude. Like that's like people would let you cut their pinky toe off for that.
He was, so I didn't do too many like fandom, like can I have a picture with you type. But one year we were in the Wild World of Sports wrestling. I think it was like 97. It was after I think he won his medal. I took this picture with, I was a junior in high school, and I was like, and he puts me in a pinch headlock. Dude, my like knuckles are in my neck. I'm like, this is a picture, man. Like, it's a picture.
Yeah, I mean, he was pumped when he was talking to me. He's sitting in the corner of this, I don't know what it was, like a trailer or something. He was just firing away at just the passion he was bringing. And on the TV screen, you know, I was like, damn, this guy. But yeah, when I brought up the Olympics, he was like, when I saw him running around with that damn flag, I wanted to kill him.
That's kind of the mindset. Like, I don't have that mindset, but like, he is just incredibly passionate about his training. He's fanatical. Yvonne used to brag about him all the time. They were training partners, and just watching him and his work ethic it's obvious. You know, that was everything.
Was another one of them, man. He came on, he was on the show, and he was firing away. But I talked to some people off the show after I had him, and they were like, man, we remember when we were younger, when Ken was training for the Olympics, like we'd be somewhere training and you would just see him all day long running laps around the school or the track or just out there training, just like a beast. And, it's crazy the stories that you hear about, like these top, like Julia Salata. I had her on and she talked about, but then I spoke to a girl down here who was the first 4-time Florida state champion, and she went to King U, and she said that Julia was a senior when she was a freshman, and she said that it was total beast mode. They have like a hill at King University that they train on, and they said Julia would go with every single weight class, beat every single weight class up there. It didn't matter if you were men or women. She was just total beast mode on everyone. I mean, these upper echelon athletes are just incredible to me, what the machine does.
And she's on a New York State coaching staff, and our girls get to, they get to see her, and that's the thing I was talking about. Like, she's a competing athlete that's influencing these kids as much as us coaches. Like, I basically tell the kids, I'm a map maker. Okay. If you win, it's all yours. You win championships, it's yours. If you lose, maybe something wrong was the map didn't have a clear direction. Maybe it was missing a rest area, right? That's missing things. So, Julia Salata to those kids though is in between that. She's like a walking step-by-step guide, right? Like, they're buying into that because she's doing it right now at the senior level, and they can see it tangibly that she's doing it at the senior level. And Zoe, Angie, Katie, we have like Emily, Reagan. They all just see that, and then I can see them bring it here.
She said that she says, when I'm in the room with our athletes, I'm always prepared, because if I go, they know they're never getting my legs, they're never touching me, they're never hit, because I won't let them. I'm total beast mode on them. And it was awesome to hear the passion. Like when I get to talk to you guys, you coaches and athletes that are at a whole nother level than the rest of us, it's amazing to hear the mindset of how they think or how they live their life, or where that passion came from to get on the mat again. I mean, through people like getting stitches in their eyes, and getting hit by cars and breaking their ankles, and it's insane how that athlete comes out of them, and they manage to get to a whole nother level to be able to get their mind and body right to do it.
The way you're breaking that down, it's like I watched this movie, Momentum Generation. It's a surf movie. It's about like Kelly Slater. It's on HBO. Sick movie. Actually, like reminds me. It's got a lot of similarities to Jake Kirby in the situation, and they kind of all resent the sport at some point. Like they're all doing it. And they're all really good at it, but then they leave and come back, and there's like a soul surfing. Like they're doing it because they love it. And like these guys that get injured in their eyes, they're not at work. They're on their playground, right? Like when Sean White's banging out like 900s or whatever he's doing on the half pipe, like they're all just out tricking each other, and they're out giving, and it's a playground. And if the mat's a playground for you, and it's not a place where somebody's requiring you to do work,
yeah,
you can, bloody eyes and injuries, because you don't want people to take you off of the place you love to be at. You don't want somebody to, hey, I'm not coming off the mat. This is my playground. This is where I want to be. And it's not about, there's a toughness there, but man, if you actually like, hey kids, you can go play Fortnite if you run through a bunch of barbed wire.
Yeah, I think that's the things that it's fun to them, right? So it's like when they say, hey, if you do this, we're taking you for pizza. Like I had a guy on yesterday. He's like, funny story is I got into wrestling because I was in kindergarten with my buddy, and he's like, hey, come to wrestling practice, because afterwards they take us to Burger King and we get Pokemon toys and Burger King. And he's like, I'm in. And ever since then he fell in love with it. And it's amazing how you get to where you get to. I'm trying to look up before you hang up. I'm trying to look up that wrestler that I was telling you about. I'm sure if I just said it out loud, somebody would post here, but I have it on here somewhere. I mean, I've got 96 wrestlers on here. Yeah, I mean, and I was telling you the story about how important he said Greco was to him, and it's amazing. He's up at Grandview this year.
That's a good program.
Yeah, he's a smaller guy, so he said he went off to some school, but he was like, it just wasn't for him, so he wanted to come back and get it. Hey, Julio, I see you're on there. Who's the kid that I had on? Real awesome kid that broke his ankle and still won states. If someone's listening, I'm sorry, I'm having a total brain fart. Love him, great kid. I texted him just the other day. I can't remember. Elijah Verona. I'm sorry, I'm here.
Oh yeah, I know.
Elijah Verona. Sorry, Elijah. I've had a lot of people on. Love you, kid, but I forgot the name.
I went to Northern Michigan, his brother, where I went to school. But yeah, I don't know who their coaches were. They're New York or they're Florida coaches, but yeah, those were Greco guys. They were.
Yeah, it's crazy. He said if he didn't have that Greco training, he doesn't know if he could have done it. But anyway, man, this has been great, man. Anytime you want to do it again, please hit me up. Feel free. Come on. Any of your coaches, any of your kids in the room, any of your girls, boys, any of your athletes want to come on, man, just have them click the link and sign up.
I will do that. I'm sure there are some, and then maybe once we get this pandemic in, I'm sure this fall and winter is going to be a wait and see approach. Right now, we're scheduled to have our normal season, just like a couple weeks behind. But depending upon that, we're going to alter what our peak tournaments are, and I'll just reach out to you in between now and then. And I really appreciate the platform, and I like this setting. It's really nice. So thanks.
I appreciate it. I'm just having fun, trying to give back, and it's been cool to get to meet people. And like I tell people, I can't wait to see what it's like to be in a wrestling room again. It'll be cool to watch the matches, because I've taught myself some stuff. I've went on to I got bronze certified, so I kind of learned that stuff. Not that it takes a genius to do that, but it gave me some knowledge to be able to do that. And I learned some stuff there. I went through the leadership course with NWCA.
Yep.
And that was cool. So I've gotten to learn some cool stuff, and I feel like I can't wait to watch wrestling through my new eyes,
Well, if you just keep continuing those, the fact that you're doing them on your own, we encourage our parents and our coaches to keep their learning going. We have 6 parents that are taking the kind of the route that you're going, and they're actually bringing up some things to me. They're looking out for the club. They're looking, hey, what do you think? Whether it's safe sport or whether it's just, how we approach our younger kids as to copper is a younger approach, it's like 13 and under, and then bronze is more for your cadet juniors. But it lets you realize that the burnout's a real thing for kids, and how do we keep them really enjoying the training? And that training has been Mike Clayton does a fantastic job. And
I think for me is not that I've been blessed. My son has 2 amazing coaches at school that are amazing human beings, and then the amazing coaching staff at CFWA, amazing human beings, right? So he's been blessed with people that I can trust around him. But there's times where you see stuff happening and you wonder why, or you wonder why the coach is reacting that way to your kids, or why the kids aren't doing certain things. And you're like, what the fuck? But now when you go through that course as a parent, and now I'm in the room and I see the coach react a certain way or do a certain thing or expect something, I can be like, oh yeah, I know why he's doing that. That's cool. Like, I get it now, right? Or even as a parent, I used to get pissed off, like every other parent. That wasn't a pin, you asshole, you suck, rap. That wasn't a pin, blah, right? And then I realized people are like, why wasn't it a pin? I'm like, his shoulder wasn't down. Yeah, but his clavicle thing was. I'm like, oh, what does that matter? Well, that's what's supposed to touch, not your shoulder. I'm like, oh, I get it. Got it. I'm the idiot and not the ref. Yeah. So things like that I've gotten to read about and learn.
Well, your whole parenting style, like, to me, that's even. I'm about to be a parent of a wrestler, and my daughter just broke her arm yesterday. She fell off a piece of equipment or something. She broke her arm, and I lost my mind. I absolutely flipped. And I know I'm not supposed to. I teach these kids to compose themselves, right? I'm a teacher of, hey, it's just one takedown. It's just 1 point. It's not over. Oh, it's just one match. You can come back and learn from it. If you still want to wrestle, you continue, right? And here I am struggling because there's no blueprint to be a parent, right? Like, you love your kids. And
I think the reactions are going to, I overreact in it, and now he overreacts at times, and
right.
Other kids do it. I think it's what we do as parents. I've dropped some French terms at my kids before, and it's just the way it is. But I love that he found this sport, and I love what it's doing to him and for him. And there are times where I don't love certain things that are making him react a certain, like right now he's going through a weight cut process to get down to a weight for whatever, and he'll have some pouty moments or he'll have some overreaction moments, and then that's when my wife looks at me and goes, I know the sport's a great sport, but that part of it I hate, right? And I'm like, but that's part of it, right? And she's like, well, he needs to learn, and she'll tell him, you need to learn to react better or else I'm going to adjust this, right? So
Well, yeah. So what's his weight?
his weight right now, he's like 153. He's got to get down to one. So this year it's 138 +5. I think they gave a +5 because of the situation we're in. So he's just got to get down to
Fluffy 53, or is he like lean 53?
Oh, he's pretty. I mean, to him, he thinks he's fat because you can't see the cuts, but he's been bulking up and now he's slowly leaning down and he's got some help with it. But he just like last night we had dinner and I mean, he didn't eat much. He ate like, I don't know, 6 ounces. He weighs every single thing he eats.
Yeah.
But he's done eating and there's a reaction or whatever. So he goes and he runs to the back room and where they've got an office and the office is empty right now. So he threw his mats down in there so the kids go in there. And he went in there and turned his music on and did whatever it is he does and lost a couple pounds. But just
when's the weigh-in for the event?
Not until the 24th, I think. So he's got plenty of time to do it. We started. I think he's not understanding the new process because he's been with a guy now that's been teaching him how to through the summer. They both, last year they leaned him out. Now through the summer they're bulking him up to get more muscle on him. And now he's got the muscle. Now they need to lean it out so it's strength and whatever. You know about all that. I don't, but he's doing it with him the right way. So when he was used to like, okay, I'll lose 10 pounds in a week. That's not the right way to do it. We've started a month out. So he's not going to see drastic weight loss every single day like he was used to seeing when he was doing it the wrong way, right? So I think by the time he gets to goes into that week, he's going to realize, oh, I'm only 5 out and now I can, go take a shit or something and be at weight.
The thing that we monitor when we're not huge on losing weight because puberty is one of those things. It's like you're basically on steroids. So your body's a car and you're giving it gasoline in order for it to run. And then puberty is like, now you need like a ton of gas to keep up with it. Yeah. But, we're saying like, hey, if you're at that weight making part of your situation, you're still not missing meals. Like we're as coaches looking for them to, hey, they're snapping on parents or they're snapping on people or that's a warning sign that the brain's not, it's almost like just a nutrient deficiency and the brain gets pissed. And so we pay attention to that. It's not, obviously every kid's different and everybody, their diets are different. Their options are different. We just say, hey, if you're upset because you're not eating, eat and then train. Like use your gasoline that you put in your car and just use it. And you'll find that your metabolism will speed up, but then you're still not missing meals. Because if you start missing meals, then your metabolism slows down and now you're getting nothing.
Well, you know what? He was used to always, at minimum 3 times a week being in a wrestling room, going full out. So between dieting and having his 3 days a week in a wrestling room, it made a difference, right? So now where he's been working at home, but he does the right thing. Like yesterday, he prepped his chicken and rice. He prepped his vegetables. He preps all week.
Good food too.
I think he just needs to. I think we've been waiting for like his strength to catch up with his technique, and now the maturity to catch up with wrestling. And
Gary Mayab, if you can talk to him ever, he has a great presentation on kids and puberty, and then how their mind has like a 9 to 18 month lagging. I don't have the science behind it, and he did a good job presenting it to our kids at a pre-tournament camp. But it'll really like when then you realize I look back at all our 15, 16-year-olds that like were going through it at the time. I'm like, yeah, like we were seeing. It's hard as coaches. You can see a kid that's capable, and their brain still sees an 11-year-old kid. Like they look in the mirror and they're not seeing what we're seeing.
No, this is a real issue. I've asked coaches that I've had on this show, when does this go away? Because my son he's always been a year to two younger than the kids in his class because we were able to hold his brother back in kindergarten because my mother-in-law wasn't working, and we were able to do that. But with him, we had to kind of go. So he's always been a year or two ahead of everybody. So in 7th grade, he was 12 years old and 126 pounds, right? So as he's grown, now he's tall, he's 5'9", 5'10", 150 something pounds. But in his mind, he still sees this 12-year-old 130 pounder. So the problem is he's so motivated to want to get down to a low weight of fear of facing these bigger guys because he thinks they're so much bigger than him. When in reality, I'm trying to tell him, look, you're not the 12-year-old anymore. You're now as big as those guys. But then he kind of mind fucks him. He's like, yeah, but if I'm wrestling at 150, those guys are cutting from 180. I'm like, yeah, but they're not. Like
you're 100. That the fear they're cutting because of fear, and it's that exact thing. My situation growing up, my dad, I weighed 133 at certs. I started 135. The weight class below was 130. Not only did I wrestle up a couple pounds, and I ended up weighing like 135 come state qualifiers. I wrestled 140 and 145, and he was just like, "Let's long term. You're going to allow your body to grow, and I'm going to show you that you can compete with these guys." Now, if he would have done that to me in 8th and 9th grade, I don't think my mind could have handled it. But as I was hitting my growth in 11th and 12th, like it worked out. But it's not easy. I think it's like 9 to 18 months. I think it really is. All of a sudden the kid's like, yeah, I'm like, this is my mat. I'm going to dominate it. And it's like, wait, where'd that come from?
Yeah. And you've seen his confidence grow, but I think he still in some way believes that, but you don't understand, those guys are huge. So, but I think, somewhat he's like, hey, well, what if I certify at the lower weight, but then I kind of gradually move up. And then I think his goal, which I would be okay with, is if he was wrestling 145 this year, I think that would be good. I don't think there's a need for him to go all the way back down to 138 again.
Yeah, and if he's still growing even an inch, that's going to be on. So where you're thinking, hey, let's go finish. You're so close to finishing that double. Like, let's watch the film on where your foot was when you try to explode back to your feet. And they don't even want to because they're thinking about how hungry they are. Right? Like, if you actually just clean up the difference at the highest level is technique. Everybody can train. Everybody can work out at that. Once you get to the highest level, it's technique. And
yeah, it's funny. I've heard that because I had Machiavello and Mike Mock on months ago. And, in high school, he was just killing people, right? And then when he got to NC State, because he was the biggest, baddest guy anymore, didn't matter. And he said he had to go back and get wrestling smart. And then obviously the rest is history. He's doing pretty good now, right? But
yeah.
But yeah, he talked about that a little bit. But yeah, I'm sure Daniel will come along and whatever. But yeah, I definitely see that, because I've said that a lot of times to him. I'm like, you still think you're 12, but you're not. You're going to be 15. You're taller. And first of all, I'm like, what the hell do you want to be at 138 anymore? That fucking place is deadly.
Yeah, 45 is
where we went this year. It was deadly. Like, every bracket was full. What the hell do you want to be there for? Like, I'd be wanting to eat to get to 160.
138, 145, I think, are the most loaded weights in the country.
Yeah, where we went.
But, yeah, and if you guys, I know I want to wrap this up, but if you guys were ever, of course, you go skiing in like Lake Placid or something, you come into Albany and you want to like do something, you got a spot.
Man, for sure. I want to get up there. I know my uncle is out in New Jersey, right there in Princeton, and he's been asking to have us come up for the camp. And we were going to do that this summer, and then some little pandemic happened, but we couldn't make it. But definitely, I want to get up there for sure. I want to travel around and meet everybody. But man, I appreciate it. And we could talk forever, but got to run.
Thanks.
All right. Yes, sir.
Yeah.